Good morning. Welcome to May 2018. We are going to be doing, I am going to be showing you bellflowers this morning. Our challenge this month is flowers. Any type of flower that you'd like. We're going to put together several tutorials. What I'm doing here today is I just want to show you some variations that you can make using what I call blanks. If you have a bellflower press, whether it be one of the really nice expensive ones, whether it be a simple one like this is what I can afford, so this is what I use. I have a couple different sizes. Primarily I use this larger one and this smaller one, and I make all kinds of flowers just from those simple presses. What I want to show you is the variety that you can make from what I call a blank. A simple buttercup can become all kinds of different things, including, this is what we're going to do today. It's a star flower. By using a twisty, you can make multicolor items. This is just a twisty that's been put carefully around and then pressed, and you get that really neat effect. Takes a little bit of practice, but it can be pulled off. You can also add frit to your blank, and then when it presses, it stretches out and looks like dots. It's kind of cool. Not very realistic to what you'd find in the wild, but that's okay, or your garden or whatever. What we're going to do today is just a basic yellow flower like this. I'm going to show you how to pull it out from a buttercup. So here we go. I believe it's 18 gauge stainless steel wire for things I'm going to make into jewelry. You don't need to heat your wire, your glass is going to do it. This is less about head pin and more about flowers, but I'll cover some of the basics on head pins. You don't want to do too much down the wire. If the wire flexes inside the glass, obviously it's going to break it, so you kind of want to work off the end just like you would work off the end of a mandrel if you're making flowers off the end of a mandrel or whatnot, at the end of a rod, so you can kind of punty to it, whatever you're doing. There we go. Got a nice glob of glass. It's not very pretty because I was chattering away, but we're going to let it heat up and become kind of round. When I'm working small like this, I tend to keep a very small flame. It's just, that's what I'm comfortable with, that's what I'm used to. So I make it nice and round. You can use your bellflower sideways if you want to. A lot of people don't realize that, but it pushes the wire out the top, so if you're making a pendant that's hanging, it's easier than if the wire is coming out the back. But for simplicity today, what we're going to do is just use it flat. And we press it. There's lots of videos that will show us how to make bellflowers, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail there. Usually there's a seam. I find the seam and I just kind of press it out. It just, to me, that's a little detail, but it's there. Then grab your trusty scissors. What you want to do is the back of your bellflower will generally have a pattern on it. You will become familiar with that pattern and where you want to cut it. My hands shake, so I use the support of my marber here. Once you cut it, you want to round out the sharp edges and then go in and heat the next petal. Each time you cut it, it usually will spread the flower out just a little bit, which is convenient. Remember to round it, warm it back up. I find if I warm it and cut it from the back, it spreads the flower a bit. There we go. If you find your petals are sticking together, you can go back in and recut them. It's not a big deal. Heat it so that you can see where the temperature is. Give it a cut. There we go. Let's see. One more cut and I'll have 5. It's starting to kind of come together, so I'm going to stretch it out just a little bit. I've got one big one left that I'm going to cut. There we go. And give her a cut. So there we go. 5 cuts. At this point, if you wanted to, you could just round it out and make a little daisy type thing. But I want to show you how to stretch it, so I'm just gonna trim it up a little bit, round out all your sharp points. If your scissors get hot between flowers, remember to dunk them. Like any tool, if it gets too hot, the handle or whatnot, if it's not designed for it, the handle will get hot and melt. So warm up the next petal you want to work with. You don't want it too hot, but you do want it to move. Punty up to it, give it a pull, wait for it, and it comes off. You can then, if you want to, you can pull it to where you get a thread and cut it. That works really well. Remember to insurance heat things. Then you want to go back in, heat the next one, and you're going to do the same thing. You want to kind of warm it, grab it, give it a little pull. There you go. I like to pull it clean with like that and just kind of get rid of the threads. That's kind of how I like doing it, but really you can do it any way you like. You know, whatever floats your boat is the rule, especially with glass. There we go. Pull it. I find that that makes a more consistent flower for me. You can try and do it any way you like. This one is going to be a little thicker than the others, so I'm pulling more glass off of it. Remember, your threads are really hot, so be careful where they go. You don't want them winging across the room or anything. And if they pull up really fast, like spaghetti, they will flick back. They can flick back on your hand. They can flick back in your face. Be very careful with your strings. They're not innocuous, harmless little items. So, see, I like the look of a quickly pulled and a string. So that first one, the first two that I did look different than the quickly pulled. You can see that. But I'm not going to bother trying to fix those at this point. What I'm going to do next, with a yellow flower, you can't do a yellow stamen. You need to do a different or contrasting colored stamen just so it can be seen. So I've got a little black stringer here. I've reheated and insurance heated this, and I am, because I'm a perfectionist, I'm trying to pull that in at the same time. Get a little bit of this going, get right into the center, pull it out. There's your stamen. Grab a stringer. To me, the back is just as important as the front. This would also make a good starfish if somebody's doing a starfish themed thing. My stringer was cold, but bear with me. I like to do the back as well as the front, just because I find that more realistic, and it also gives the flower a bit of stability. Put it on there, kind of let it come around the flower like it would, and cut it off if you get any extras. I'm a big one for pulling threads, and they generally just pop right off. Getting a little cool here, so I'm going to reheat it while I get my stringer cleaned up. Once you get the hang of this, it's actually kind of methodical and soothing almost. You know, you're like cut, schmear, stretch, whatnot. I tend to get threads all over the place, and at the end of the day I have to be careful and get rid of them. There we go. Keep your fingers out of the flames. Alright, so there we have a funky looking, as always when I rush these things, bellflower, or no, excuse me, starflower, made from a bellflower blank. I'm just going to pop this over there in the blanket. I'm not going to anneal this because it's just a display piece, but I don't want it to pop apart while we're talking. So there it goes. Alright, so just, you know, this is a basic pin vise. This is one that I made early on, just when I was playing. You can flatten out the glass and then paint it almost, you know, use your stringer and make different patterns in there. So this kind of looks like a zinnia. As I said, you can use frit. This is multicolored dark. You can't see it in the video because of the the Diddy lens, but it has kind of a rainbow effect going in there that is very pretty. This has the spots, almost like a Dalmatian. You can cut as many as you want to, so if you wanted to do like an African daisy or a Gerbera daisy, you can just cut. Depending on your skill, your ability, the size of your bellflower, you can do this without wire. You can work at the end of a rod of glass and just make a Maria, flatten it with pincers, and do the same exact effect and get a big one. But the trick is you got to keep the heat off your rod if you're doing it that way. Twisties, if you have twisties, this is a great way to use them up. Make colorful flowers with your twisties. I hope these are showing up. And so basically, have some fun with it. Learn to stretch, you know, just like some of the stuff that we've been doing. If you lose your patterns when you're stretching, you can go back in and use your tweezers, your patternless tweezers, to just press your flowers and basically have fun, have a good time. Thank you for watching.